Hamilton Township is one of the largest municipalities in New Jersey, and it's a major hub here in Mercer County. But what most homeowners and buyers don't realize is that some of the biggest forces shaping property values and housing aren't just interest rates or inventory levels or list to sale price ratio and all those good things we look at on a daily basis. It's all the policy decisions that are happening behind the scenes. We're going to talk about that today with a very special guest from Hamilton. Welcome back to the Wilton Report. I'm Josh Wilton, and I co-own and run the #1 boutique real estate agency here in central New Jersey. And we work with buyers and sellers every day in this market. And I see firsthand how things like zoning, development, and infrastructure directly impact pricing, demand, and long-term value. So by the end of this, you'll have a better understanding of what's driving growth and investment in Hamilton, how development and affordable housing requirements are impacting the township, where is Hamilton heading into housing from a housing perspective and infrastructure perspective over the next several to 10 years, and then local policy decisions that can affect homeowners and property values. So joining me tonight is the mayor of Hamilton, Mayor Jeffrey Martin. Mr. Mayor, thank you. I appreciate you coming on here and giving your residents and our guests, if you will, a direct insight into what's happening in Hamilton. So you want to take a minute and introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Josh, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Hamilton and the great things we have going on here. So my name's Jeff Martin. I've been mayor almost exactly 6.5 years now. Hamilton is a full-time mayor. So I was elected November 2019 to the position, sworn in January 1st. So we're recording this beginning of July. So almost exactly 6.5 years now as mayor. Married to my wife, Scarlett. Have a rising first grader in the Hamilton Public Schools as well. So love my time here. My little one loves her time here. She's all into summer camp season right now as well. So we're fully in, and more so my parents, not originally from Hamilton, grew up in Edison, another similar large suburban municipality. But 2 summers ago, my parents made the move from Edison down to Hamilton as well. So they are now
nice.
proud Hamiltonians as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, we have a couple Hamilton residents here at the office as well. So, so my first question, as I alluded to when we were chatting earlier, is what on earth made you decide to want to get into politics?
Sure. So, as I said, from Edison, right? Started getting involved in some politics stuff, not really locally, on a state level. Once I got to the College of New Jersey for my undergrad degree, right? In Ewing, so right up the street, interned in the State House, all 4 of my years of undergrad. Went to law school. After law school, went into the Air Force, was an Air Force JAG officer stationed in England, my 4-year commitment. So I was not only out of politics, but out of New Jersey for those 4 years. I say this not to bring in federal politics, right? But Donald Trump gets elected 2016. My wife and I had been in Hamilton for a little bit. I didn't agree with many of the things he was saying, and I was like, I need to get involved and do more. So ran for town council in 2017, won then, ran for mayor 2019, and here I am now 6.5 years later.
So it's interesting. So you were looking at the national landscape and saying, you know what? Not feeling good. I'm going to run for mayor. I'm going to run locally, right? Have an impact locally. And then that just fought.
Yeah, didn't even think about running for office, right? Just wanted to kind of get involved at the time. The town was run by all of one political party, the opposite of what I am. And so they were looking for people to run. And that's how I kind of got recruited into running. So didn't start out looking to run, just timing is so much in life, right? Whether it's finding the right house or whatever, timing is so much of what we do.
Right. And so let's talk, and again, because the concept of public servant is, I think it's thrown about, and I don't think people quite understand it. And having talked to several of your peers in the county, none of them who are full-time, at least in terms of compensation, but work full-time plus hours, plus another full-time job. How many hours a week are you putting into this right now for Hamilton, for the residents of Hamilton?
I don't in a benefit way, I don't calculate my hours, right? Because I don't have to
That's
answer
good.
to a different boss. I have to still answer to my wife and daughter, but I don't have to answer to another job that pays me. So, it varies, right? I'm able, to a certain extent, to drop my daughter off at camp in the morning. But Wednesday night, when we're doing our town Independence Day celebration, I'm there. I'm not getting overtime or anything like that, but I'm there interacting with people. Saturday morning, the Rotary was doing a reading of the Declaration of Independence. So I'm there, showing my support, being the town leader, right? So all those kind of ancillary things add up. So even when I'm able to kind of maneuver my calendar a little bit, all those other things go into it that add up the hours that way. And that's just out of the house. That's not even answering emails or being on phone
Sitting at
calls
your
or things
desk
like
and
that. Yeah.
doing all those different things. So, okay. So let's talk, because I would be willing to bet a lot of money based on having, done these interviews before, and then people watching them have no idea. Explain the setup of the local government in Hamilton. Is it strong mayor, weak mayor, council driven? Like, what's the setup for Hamilton's government?
Sure. So back in the mid 70s, Hamilton changed to a strong mayor form of government. And so the first elected mayor back in 1975 was Mayor Jack Rafferty, who served then for 24 years. He's been in Mercer County for a while. You probably knew him, or at least knew the name. So he kind of set the standard of, it's a strong mayor. So equivalent to how our state works with the governor, how our federal government works with the president. Then you have the town council, which is your legislature. So they have advice and consent on director positions, right? Everything from your town administrator to directors of different departments. They also control the finances. They have to finalize the budget and adopt the budget. They have to pass laws through ordinances in the town, right? We give them those recommendations, but it's ultimately up to them on whether they pass something or make edits to it, all that kind of stuff. So there's five there's five part-time council members that are elected at large. I've had the privilege of working with the same people since 2020. So they've all been in it at least 6.5 years as well. So we've got a good working relationship. We call each other. I was on the phone with one of our council members today, right? And so there's a lot of that just communication back and forth between council and myself. But 4 out of the 5 of them have other full-time jobs, right? To your point. So they're putting in a lot of work as well.
They really do. We love as residents to show up and complain, usually after the fact, because we weren't paying attention along the way, and with very little regard for A, the process, which is part of what we're here to talk about, but B, like just the sheer physicality of that business of, being in politics and being a public servant. So where would you say, okay, like we're talking directly to the residents of Hamilton Township right now, where do you think, if you look at the setup of the government and how things work, if you could wave a magic wand and say, dear residents en masse, the biggest misperception that they have is X, and how would you fix it? Like, what would that biggest misperception about local governance be?
So I think it's, and it's funny, right? We just celebrated 250 years of our independence from England, right? From a king. I think so many people expect the mayor to in some ways be a king, especially on like development projects, right? That we are just able to say yes or no, and that's it, right? Like, yes, I want that development here, or no, I don't, and I'm able to just wave a magic wand and stop it. And that's truly not it's the exact opposite of kind of the system we have set up, right? So we have property rights. So if you own property, it's zoned a certain way. And then as long as you're coming with an application for a type of building, it could be residential, commercial, industrial, that fits in that zone, that meets all the requirements of setbacks and things like that, there's really not a whole lot the town can do to say yes or no at that point, right? Because we believe in property rights. We believe not that one individual should have the right to say yay or nay to a project. So I think, often it comes when people don't want something, right? And they think the mayor can just go in there and say no, and that's that. But that's exactly the opposite of the system we have set up.
Right. So, it is funny, right? Like, what do you mean you're doing that? It's like, well, I'm not doing that. The rules fell that way, or for or against. Usually, like, there's somebody annoyed with something. But let's talk about everybody's favorite topic, and it's taxes. So, everybody in New Jersey thinks we are a very low tax state. We're not a high tax state, which is obviously being facetious. Why don't you explain for how the taxes in Hamilton get appropriated? Because again, I think people we love to forget, right? So what's the percentage that goes to the town? What's the percentage that goes to the county? And what's the percentage that goes to the BOE, the Board of Ed?
Yeah. So we put out a memo when people get their tax bill. They should be getting it sometime later in July in Hamilton. That says there's 5 entities we collect your property taxes for. Mercer County. Mercer County also has an open space fund that funds park improvements. It funds, helps support towns to buy property and preserve as open space. It supports the school district. It supports the township, and it supports the library. So Hamilton, many of the communities in Mercer County are in the Mercer County library system. Hamilton has its own township library. And there's actually a state law that says what the minimum amount we have to raise every year to support the library. Hamilton is at that minimum amount. So even if we switched to the Mercer County system, your taxes wouldn't change literally a penny, because we'd still have to collect the same amount of money to then send to Mercer County. So we are, I think at last count, about 36% of somebody's total tax bill. And then plus the library
itself.
Yeah. So coming in the high 30s between the township and the library. The school district is obviously the biggest portion of that, and then followed by the county, and followed lastly by the county open space. The townships, actually, the county runs on an assessed net valuation. So Hamilton property values have shot up through COVID and since COVID, which is, in many ways a positive thing for property owners currently. But it means because of that, your tax bill has gone up disproportionately high compared to some other municipalities in the county as well, right? So, so much of the county tax bill is because as your property values increase, the county doesn't wait for your property to be reassessed. It just automatically says, okay, well, property values in general in Hamilton went up 10% this year, so your bill's going to go up about the same no matter what. So,
and I would say, and I at some point should put a spreadsheet together. I'd say, let's say 36%, right? That's comparatively low to some other municipalities. So the people of Hamilton, again, as much as we like to complain about our taxes, you guys are doing a pretty good job, on a percentage basis of keeping things in check, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal, right? So we're very proud. We told residents there is a tax increase coming this year, but in 21, 22, and 23, when we were in those 8%, 6% inflation years, we didn't raise taxes those 3 years. Now, it's catching up with us now, right? But as people were really hurting, and as inflation, when you were paying $6 for a 12-pack of eggs and all those kinds of things, right? We made a conscious decision when people were hurting the most that we were going to do everything we could. We still do everything we can, but those kind of decisions from a few years ago have obviously caught up to us now.
Yeah, and Hamilton, from a pricing perspective, yes, has seen some big price jumps, right? in incredible price jumps in some cases. So, unfortunately, that's part of the, we all like to go to Zillow and look at what our house is worth, right? And we say, okay, we bought it for, 100, now it's worth 400. What do you mean my taxes went up? Well,
Yeah.
it is proportional, unfortunately, we don't.
And actually far less. I mean, I just know for my house, right? It's gone up more than 50% over the last 5-6 years, right?
Yeah.
My taxes have not gone up because I pay taxes like everybody else in the town. I'm not immune to them. I don't
Putting that out there.
Yeah. My taxes have not gone up 50%, right? So,
Right.
From a bang for your buck perspective, you're actually better if you're a property owner now than you were even like 6-7 years ago.
Which is, again, when you think about it, it's the perspective I think people lack because we tend to just, have a knee-jerk reaction to things. So we're talking about real estate and taxes. So let's pivot to obviously one of the reasons we brought you on here, other than your expertise in running such a big municipality of over 92,000 residents, from what I read, over 37,000 households, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the biggest in Mercer County, I believe.
Yes.
And so let's talk housing. So obviously, and again, because I'm, in housing, inundated by housing, talk housing, sleep housing, I always say people would have to be under a rock to not understand the affordable housing obligations in New Jersey that happened and are happening. So why don't you, just really quickly talk high level, more macro about, I'll use the word the edict that the state passed on to Hamilton and said, okay, guys, you owe us X number of houses. What is that? And then we'll go into the more minutia on it.
Yeah. So I guess about 18 months or so ago, the state told every municipality what number of affordable housing units, new affordable housing units they had to or they should produce. And every municipality had the opportunity to, raise the number, although I don't think any did, but certainly lower that number, or just say, yes, we agree to that number. And then put a plan together about 9 months ago to demonstrate how you would hit those numbers. So this is what's called the fourth round. So this is the fourth time something kind of similar to this has happened in the state, dating back to probably about 40, 50 years ago through the Mount Laurel decision. So Hamilton now has about 9 years left, running through 2035, the middle of 2035, to not only put that plan together, but enact that plan now. And so we're very proud. We're well on our way to sort of meeting our goals. And through a variety of mixes, we think it'll actually leave the town in a better place overall once we hit our marks.
So let's chat about some of the things that are happening and going to be happening. So how many affordable housing units is Hamilton obligated to produce for the fourth round?
520.
520. Okay. So in other municipalities, just for listeners, right? 520 units means like that municipality could be staring down the barrel of literally 1,500 to 2,000 additional units with pilots and builder offsets and all the other things that municipalities do to try to avoid the rather consequential bills of the housing edict, right? It doesn't seem like, you guys are definitely doing inclusionary housing. We're going to talk about a few of the sites, but it seems like the overall, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an expert, the overall strategy of Hamilton is to keep the overall number of new houses a little bit lower than your peers in Mercer County.
Absolutely. So we've got a great relationship with our school superintendent and our board of ed here in town. We're actually in the process this fall. We should be completing a new municipal building that'll actually house both the township administration and the school district administration all under one roof.
There's a
Yeah. So we're proud of that, right? We want to show the towns that both your major governmental entities are together and working towards improving the town. I make the joke that when people move into a town, they ask about the school district. They don't ask about how the health department is run, right? Like now, they all kind of go hand in hand, but
They don't go online and get the scores of the health department, right?
yes,
Go
right,
online and
yes.
get the scores of the schools and the elementary schools and the high schools. Like you guys have 2 high schools you manage. It's incredible.
3 high schools, yeah, 3
3 high
public
schools.
schools.
Sorry, 3 high schools. Yeah,
Yeah.
3 high schools.
So we should be working with them, right? So the school district hasn't built a new school since the mid 80s, right? And so to a certain extent, they're landlocked in expansion. And so working with them overall on our housing situation, right? We tried to spread it out throughout the town, but also keep it at a manageable number that they can absorb any new school-age children coming in as well.
So how many total units do you think you guys are projecting to create? I mean, there's the 500, let's just say round it to 500 that you owe. And
So we'll probably be around that 500 number. So right off the bat, we have, so through these prior rounds, right, these units had to stay affordable for usually 30 years. And then those restrictions on what they sell for or what they rent for expire. So the town is extending those restrictions on 2 different properties, totaling around 130 units. So that's literally 25% of our requirement. There's some bonus credits involved with those as well. So, it actually comes out to a number above 130 when you factor in those bonus credits. So right away,
can we take a second and explain bonus credits? Because the average listener might go, we're talking about houses. How's it like credits? Like, is it extra credit? So
basically, yes.
What that means in the housing concept.
Yeah. So the state's set up to say if you build certain kinds of housing, that say, and we're going to talk about our train station in a little bit. If you build housing at or near a train station, for every affordable unit that you build, we'll actually give you credit for building 1.5 affordable units. So, we put a plan in place for building a number of units at our Hamilton train station. We're working with the state on accomplishing that because it's state-owned land. But for every affordable housing unit we build there, we'll actually get 1.5. So if we only build 10, for example, affordable units, we get credit for 15 of them in our plan that way. So that's, again, another way to keep that gross number down.
Right. And it's interesting because I do think that if, there's a lot of amazing parts about Hamilton, but selfishly being the real estate space, access to jobs is what facilitates the real estate market. I do think from just, looking at it and having clients who go through it every single day, the Hamilton train station is, I don't want to say underutilized, but maybe underspoken about in the market area, because it's not just Hamilton residents. I have clients from Hopewell go there. I have clients from Lawrenceville go there. I have clients from Robbinsville go there. Like, this is a
South Jersey. They come up 295.
South Jersey, they come from Pennsylvania, right? Like, this is a major hub. So let's talk about that from a redevelopment perspective. So there's, you're going to put housing on that site, which by the way, I think it's a bit of a duh, right? You should put housing where people have access to transportation. How many total units are you guys looking at for the Hamilton train station redevelopment project?
So it's really up in the air right now. So the New Jersey Economic Development Authority purchased that site from New Jersey Transit. And so we're going to start, we just entered into a memorandum of understanding with the New Jersey EDA to put together a redevelopment plan for that site. So much it hinges on whether there's another parking deck that's built, because certainly transit, to your point, right, says, all right, maybe we're not as busy as we were 8 to 10 years ago pre-COVID and pre-work from home, expanded work from home. but we're still really busy. We're still a top 10 train station in the state of New Jersey, right? And so we need to make sure that we're able to fill our need. And oh, by the way, the town wants to make sure there's not spillover into a nearby neighborhood of people trying to park there and walk, right? So we both have an obligation to make sure there's enough parking to meet the need on site. Once we're able to kind of figure that out, it's not cheap to build a parking deck, but that kind of then drives the number of units, number of housing units you can build on the site from that point forward. So
will it all be affordable housing at the train station, or will it be
inclusionary?
Inclusionary.
Yeah. So about 20% of whatever is built, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 200, maybe it's 300. About 20% of that would be then reserved for affordable units.
Right. And it's when I do think that, when you drive around New Jersey today, right, if you just hit all the train towns, right, you do have to kind of like wonder what the heck took us so long to build housing around these train stations. Like I was driving through Somerville the other day, and there's literally like almost draped on the station, there's now housing, and there's housing, built in and around the infrastructure of the station. And, Morristown, Hamilton, West Windsor, all these municipalities where it was sort of get off the train, get in the car, drive home. Now it's going to get off the train, go home, and there's probably going to be shopping there and some sort of grocery support there and all these different things. So to me, for Hamilton, I think it's an exciting, I don't know. I think from a housing perspective, redeveloping that train station to housing is going to really bring a lot of interesting wrinkles to Hamilton. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's a win-win, right? I think you're going to have people like me who come from outside of town. My wife worked in Newark for a while when we first moved here. And so there was many days we knew she couldn't get a parking spot. And so I would drive her to the train station and back. And it just made her commute so much easier, but we needed it to be able to afford a better place to live and now raise our daughter. So that's why one of the main attractions to Hamilton. So you're gonna have people like that, but then who may get, a 1 or 2 bedroom unit and then get engaged, get married, have kids, but grow to enjoy. Maybe they're really into Ultimate Frisbee League that happens on Quaker Bridge Road, and now they develop friends and relationships. They're not going to want to move outside this Hamilton, Mercer County area. They've developed a bond to it, right? So they're going to want to stay here, or maybe a job relocates around here, whatever the case may be. I think once people kind of get here, they fall in love with it the same way so many of us do, and then want to stay here and look to move into maybe that single family house or something like that exists in and around town as well.
Right. And in interviewing some of the other mayors in Mercer County, obviously very deliberate around train stations with the exception of Princeton and the Dinky because, God forbid, but, very deliberate growth there. And then, if you take West Windsor as for example, because it's such another train hub, it's just a hub. It's like Hamilton. It's just a hub of a town. Mayor Morath, he said, look, we want to preserve the single family neighborhoods, right? So we're going to push the development in and around the train station, obviously, which has been in the works for a while. But then, now it's, they have it on Route 1 and some of the older corporate campuses. Has Lawrenceville taken the same approach other than the train station redevelopment? Have you said, look, let's preserve the neighborhoods we have, and then we're going to pick, and I know where most of the spots are, but we're going to identify spots that are in need of redevelopment or, in order to preserve Hamilton as we know it today.
Yeah. So, there's a big push at a state level for accessory dwelling units, right? Which allows a lot of times a single family home to put, a small house in the back. Maybe it's an in-law, parent, maybe it's just a rental unit, right? We did not see that as part of our strategy in preserving, as you say, those neighborhoods, right? So we really looked at ground up development, a little more dense that we, especially the train station, right? you may have two young adults living there, but only one car, because they really only need it maybe on the nights and weekends kind of thing. So you're not developing a lot of traffic. You're keeping that traffic then out of a lot of those neighborhoods where still, I mean, I see it on my street now, right? Kids playing on the sidewalk and riding bikes, and my little one was on the scooter last weekend, right? Like, you want to keep it safe for those kinds of experiences as well, and not drive a ton of traffic through those neighborhoods. So that's part of the balance I think we all kind of go through as mayors with our individual towns.
So let's talk about your lack of ability to be a king for a minute. And let's talk directly to the residents of Hamilton, right? Why are you doing this? Why are you developing all this? I want things to stay the same. I hate change and all that. And these are real reactions, good or bad, like agree or disagree. It's just the natural human condition to sort of like push back against anything that's new. Why don't you explain for a minute, right? Let's just jump back, maybe explain the Mount Laurel, mandate, and then, tie it back to the fact that you guys actually have a plan to preserve the character of Hamilton Township as we know it.
So again, Mount Laurel, right? You had municipalities around the state saying we're only going to build these large, 3,000 square foot, 2,000 square foot houses. Why did they do that? Because they only knew certain people of a certain socioeconomic status could afford them, move into their town, and, oh, sorry, you can't afford it. I guess you can't come here. But we're not excluding you. This is just what we have and what we're building, right? And the state kind of saw through that, and the courts kind of saw through that and said, you can't do that, right? Which makes sense. So it is a state requirement that we provide a lot of this, but the only constant in life is change. And it doesn't matter what, I mentioned earlier, 250 years. There's no municipality that looks the same as it did 250 years ago. And so every mayor has kind of encountered this in their own way in their municipality. So, one of the projects I'm really proud of is we're working with a developer to buy some property from St. Rayfields on off South Broad Street and put 68.
I was reading about that. Very interesting.
68 senior units there, right? That are all affordable. People are living longer. People, because of that, need a spot to downsize, right? And downsize into an affordable place for them to live. Oh, by the way, that maybe opens up something else. Maybe they were in a single family home that paid off the mortgage, but now they couldn't afford the property taxes, et cetera, anymore.
But they just don't want to take care of it anymore, but they don't want to leave Hamilton because they're friends and family here, doctors here, all these things are here.
Yes.
Other than this solution, which I think it's great what you're doing on that site for that segment, they didn't have a solution to stay.
Yeah.
There was no solution to stay,
Absolutely. Right. So they get to live independently. They get to stay in town. Yes, there were some homeowners immediately next to that property who weren't happy. But my obligation is to often take the larger view of the impact of a project. And so when I did that, to me, I came down very easily on this was a great project. You've got 68 units, mostly one bedroom, some two bedroom. They're not going to be partying until 2 a.m. In your backyard, right? There's not a whole lot of traffic that comes from them. My parents moved into a 55 and up community. Trust me, I dropped my little one off there for all sorts of babysitting opportunities. There's not a lot of traffic coming in and out of that neighborhood with far more units than 68. And oh, by the way, maybe some of those new residents are going to volunteer or go to the church, right? And help with other activities and community activities as well. So it's one of those win-win-win in my perspective. I know a few people aren't happy with it, but on balance, it's a total win for the community.
Yeah, it's interesting. My dad was 88 on Saturday on the 4th, right? And I go there pretty much once a week, but it had been a minute since he had come out this way. He lives at the shore. And about a month ago, or let's say whatever, about 2 months ago, he came to Princeton. And, just driving up Route 1, he was flabbergasted by the amount of development that's happened since my kids were little, right? And he would come out every week to spend a day with the kids. And so to your point, yes, everything changes. Everything's going to continue to change. One of the anecdotal things that, some of the development that's happened, I know small business owners, right, who are sort of buttonholed by development. They're near some of these new buildings that have gone in the various towns. Their business has gone up like that, like dramatically, to the point where these small business owners are now hiring more staff locally, Hamilton, West Windsor, Princeton, Plainsboro, employing more people, right? Like it's a funny thing what happens when, density,
cycle, yeah.
When density happens, positive density, right, happens, businesses benefit. And so everyone likes to say, I want to support small business owners, and then they all go to Costco. But, it is interesting, having interviewed multiple business owners, their business has gone up 20 to 30%. As soon as that housing is completed and people move in, it has a direct impact on that business, which then allows them to hire more residents. So
a lot of them are still ordering pizza from they learn what their favorite pizza place is fairly quickly for Friday night pizza, right? So
especially here in Jersey. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I won't even put you on the spot about because Hamilton's got some of the best pizza in the state of Jersey.
I appreciate that. Yes.
All right. I won't ask. And then we'll just go to the next slide. Don't ask what favorite pizza place is. Okay. I did ask one of your peers, I said, you want to give a shout out to you? And they're like, no, what are you, insane? You know what? You're right. I shouldn't do that to you guys. So, so let's talk about like infrastructure and like the boring stuff, the stuff that doesn't go on niche.com. You talked about your partnership with the BOE and the schools, and I think I applaud you for getting you guys under the same roof. I don't know why that doesn't happen. It almost should be mandated that it happens. What about like the boring stuff? Roads, sewer lines, electricity. Is there going to be an impact on that? Should residents expect disruption from that? Has already been factored into all the development.
Yeah. So in Hamilton, right? Hamilton has its own sewer department that has plenty of capacity for all these projects. So specific locations may have choke points of what are called pump stations, right? But from an overall plant perspective, we have plenty of capacity to take on all this development. And we serve as part of Robbinsville too, and same kind of thing is there as well, right? But we work closely with the director, so she kind of can map out where some of this development's going. In Hamilton, about 60% of the town is serviced by Trenton Waterworks, about 30% from Aqua, about 10% well, kind of all east of 130. So again, Aqua and Trenton Waterworks, from a capacity standpoint, have plenty of capacity as well to meet these. So in that sense, we're fine. Some of these higher density developments, it actually is a benefit to the town because the roads, interior roads, become privately owned. And so the township, in a single family development, the township's responsible for maintaining, repaving, plowing all those roads. In these more dense communities, that's not the case necessarily, right? So you're getting a bigger bang for your buck from a township perspective than if, you built a single family kind of development. So in all those ways, we don't have maybe some of the burdens some other municipalities do on having to factor in, is there sewer capacity, is there water capacity, are there roads that lead to these kinds of things. And many times we're able to absorb that kind of organically.
Which is again, is a credit to the I think the scope of what you guys manage on a day-to-day basis. It's such a big municipality. Anecdotally, do you know like where you rank in New Jersey from a size perspective, like residents or households?
So we're ninth in the state in terms of number of residents. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom's River ahead of you guys?
Tom's River's ahead. So it goes Newark, Jersey City. It's always, then Patterson, Elizabeth, Lakewood, Woodbridge, Edison, Tom's River, us. I think that's about it.
I mean, that is a big gosh, some people can't manage, their own finances. You're responsible for 90,000 plus people in a single municipality. So God bless. So let's talk to the residents of Hamilton and the future residents of Hamilton, people who watch this, and maybe they have that same epiphany as you, and they say, you know what, nationally, state, whatever, it's not my thing. I want to get involved. Are there committees that residents can get involved with to get going?
I'd say there's so many different ways to get involved, right? So, I was looking at, my daughter played softball, girls softball this spring. I didn't coach. I didn't volunteer to do the practices and all that kind of stuff that goes along with being a coach, but other parents stepped up to do that, to provide an experience for these young girls, kind of exploring what they may like in life, right? And so one, just volunteer, period, dot. Get involved in your community. Yeah, right? To use Governor Murphy's full stop, right? Period, full stop. So just by doing that, by getting involved, is a great thing. Being full-time allows me an opportunity. So at the girls, we have one girls softball. We got a grant to do repaving of their parking lot, some stormwater improvements, and a new scoreboard, all within the last 2 years, right? So we were working with the board to be able to do that. We're working now with 2 of the little leagues. They got new parking lots paved because we own the property, right? So and we worked with their volunteer boards on those kinds of projects, right? So whether you want to get involved in the township governance, by just being involved in the town, you're going to be involved in how the town looks, right? And how the town feels. I guarantee you those parents going to the different little leagues have no idea who paved the parking lots, right? Or any of that. All they know is it's safe for their kids or their parents, who are the grandparents, right? To come and watch a game and root on their kid, right? And they don't have to worry about tripping over anything or potholes. But that all encompasses a feel and a pride that people have in their town. So just get involved. If you want to be involved governmentally, we've got all sorts of different committees. So we've got our Economic Development Advisory Commission. We have Planning and Zoning Boards. We have Special Needs Commission. We have a Alliance Against Substance Abuse Commission, right? So there's all these environmental commissions. So there's all those kinds of different ones as well. A volunteer library board that can also governmentally get people involved in making the town better as well. But volunteer in whatever capacity, is best for you and your stage in life, kind of thing.
That's great. That's great advice. You don't have to overcomplicate it, and you do get involved. It's like I was a Little League coach one year, and the next year I was on the board for the Little League, and then the mayor's coming and people are listening. It is, one thing does intersect to another in all these, maybe not in your case small town, but in other cases small towns, right? So is there a newsletter that you guys send out, or is there a place that people can go for up-to-date information if they're
so if you go to our website,
residents?
If you go to our website, right on our main page, we have an email newsletter people can sign up for. We email pretty much every Tuesday and Thursday events and updates of what's going on in town, or what you can see and expect going on in town. Everything from, hey, the county's repaving Arena Drive starting today, so maybe try to avoid that, to, hey, come out. Last week it was talking about coming out for our Independence Day celebration, right? So all sorts of information we have on that. So if you're not on our email listserv, get on it. It's only twice a week. We don't over bother you. But there's a lot of great information if you want to stay up to date on what's
stay current. Like it is a hard thing to do as a resident, and it's where does your obligation end, and where does the resident's obligation begin? And I think it's just to stay informed. So I do thank you today, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate your time and your expertise. I'm excited to watch. Do you want to put out what's your next political stop or anything like that? Or
I have no idea. I'm up for reelection next year.
Next year, right? Yeah.
If you talk to my daughter, this is my permanent forever job, right? If you ask
It's
me
nice
on
to be
any
close
given,
to home. Yeah.
it certainly is. Some days are great, and I want to do this forever, like she wants me to. Other days, I'm pulling my hair out and getting extra grays. So, I enjoy it. Now we've got just real quick while we have a minute, we have CHOP, Children's Hospital Philadelphia, coming to the old AMC movie theater site, right? So that's really a project I'm
reading about
very
that.
passionate about. Going to change the town, change the county, change the area.
Change
for
that, like,
decades to come,
that's
right?
that's a big deal. I don't think I know I have friends and colleagues whose children have been we'll just say patients of CHOP, and to have them more local here it's a game changer for a lot of families. Not only Hamiltonians, but the
Across the greater Mercer County area.
the
Absolutely.
greater Mercer County area. Yeah, 100%. So no, that's exciting. I read about that myself, and I was from a personal perspective, very pleased with that, because CHOP in Philadelphia is great, but it's kind of a pain in the neck to get down there and then over there, right? So it's
and going to raise those property values as well. So buy your house now before
I know,
right?
Yeah, and it will. I was with a customer the other day, and they were thinking about selling their house, but they walk to restaurants, they walk to their doctor, and then by the time we were done with the conversation, they're like, "Yeah, we're not selling." I'm like, "I don't blame you. I wouldn't sell. Like, you're in an ideal location." And so it's pretty funny what access to medical will do. So, okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor Martin. I appreciate you coming on and joining us. And Hamilton is a community on the move. I have to say, like, it is such a bustling place, and it's so big and it's so expansive. And there's so much going on there. And I have friends and colleagues who live there. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing your expertise. And if you did find this valuable and you want more conversations, you as a listener, make sure you're subscribed to the Wilton Report. Mayor Martin, thank you again. I'm Josh Wilton. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys all next time.